Hi, I am lmta and I am the artistic director of Odyssey Ensemble. And today I'm going to talk to you, together with my associates, about the dramaturgy of the last performance I directed, that is called Revolt Athens. The show was premiered last year, and is still on tour. To my understanding, expression is one, and whenever I work on a performance, I'm not dissociating different elements like dance or music or found text. I always treat them as one, and they consist of the final text. Everything goes into this final text and one expression for the whole performance. So what is Revolt Athens? And how did it all start? I wanted to work on three different main ideas. That is real people, statistics, and empathy. And these were the three ideas that I wanted to develop and research. So the Greek crisis was so often presented as a matter of figures and statistics. And so I wanted to raise two main questions. Are we more knowledgeable in our days? This is question number one. And question number two, is empathy gone because we are overwhelmed with information and we think we know? So now let's talk about the process. I then invited some artists to join because they are strong personalities. They know the theme. They have already worked on it, on the crisis, and because they like to take the risk of not having a text that is already there in place. So let me introduce you to Pantelis Makas, who is the visual artist and who has been shooting during the events of December 2004, where where the whole of Athens was burning down. And Teatromachos Mousat, who is the music composer, and he's also performing different musical instruments during the show, to join us. So our sources of dramaturgy have been newspaper clips, statistics about the crisis, poetry, new media. Our rehearsal was kind of a laboratory, where we all brought material and we tested it and we shared it with each other.
Yeah, when I was invited from Eli to come and join and work on this project, I had a lot of filming that I was doing on the 2008 episodes of Grigoropoulos in Athens. And it was very nice to bring all this material inside the rehearsals and have people react to it. And Eli from the point of directing, and Teatromachos from the point of music, and the performer from her point. And it's always very nice to just throw material in a group of people and see what comes out of this and how people are playing around with your material. And the freedom that you have by giving them your material is enormous. It's like you don't feel it's yours anymore. It's like they can take them and they can do whatever they want, and then they come back to me. And the music comes back to Teatromachos, and the same goes for Eli. So it was like a very mixed dramaturgy, and everything came and was born from the scratch, if I can say that. And that was an interesting point of view and interesting starting point for a project, I believe.
Pantelis gave me the action many times, and I did the reaction. For example, one of his videos was with a policeman that he was holding the stick, and for me he was like a kind of maestro. So I started composing music on this movement. It was kind of a policeman maestro, and for me this interactivity with video was one of the most important things in this performance. I also, the texts for me were a kind of lyrics. So I created some kind of spoken word, slam poetry, and all these elements, the video, the text and the music was a kind of one thing.
I think it's important to say that during the process we improvised a lot, and then we would take the distance and do the transcriptions, because we also found text during our improvisations, and then we would transcribe the text and come back with a new text. And it's important, I think, that none of this was fixed beforehand. So we would come, test the material, develop the composition, the music, in reaction to the video or vice versa, and then come the next day and refine it.
Some things we never fixed. For example, the movement of the stick that the policeman was holding was live from Pantelis, so the tempo every time was different, and that was the fun.
Now this is that was like the difficult part from my point of view, and the fun part. That
Yes.
playing live video and having a musician on stage, we had all the time to find ourselves and lose ourselves, to be able to show to the viewers and to the audience that this is something live in general. It's not only that we're there playing our material, but we're there to show them the experience that we had when I was filming or when Teatermaskinen was composing the specific elements of the work.
Yeah, and I think this is a quite political point as well, that we're not asking the audience to enter into a fixed final performance where everything is done beforehand. It's like it's a live composition, and there are elements that are being created on the spot, and this in a way is also reconstructing the chaotic situation of the Athenian milieu in crisis. So about the process and how all the elements came in, I think we had a very broad idea spectrum. So of course we were interested in update information about political events, and we would discuss them in the rehearsals. We would bring in interviews from real people, and we would share the stories of real people that we've heard around us.
Our stories.
Our own stories, of
Videos
course.
from the news.
Interviews,
Interviews.
guests. We had some people coming in the rehearsals.
Open rehearsals.
Songs.
But we also stopped to stop a rehearsal and start talking about a material that someone brought. It was like very almost like an everyday phenomenon. But I remember, especially in one rehearsal, that we stopped and we had like a black point, a point that we couldn't go through, and we started talking about, the four of us, of the whole political situation in Athens, and slowly that idea of discussion led us to the next piece of the puzzle for the performance for Revolt.
Or sometimes we just made it fun. We were
Fun.
dancing all together,
Fun
for
was all
example,
the time, of
after
course.
a black hole.
And also because this was I wanted to build the dramaturgy of the many, so not just our stories but to have more elements step in, and to broader go beyond the four walls of the rehearsals. And so then we also started thinking about fictional elements, like not just elements that are attached to everyday life, but for example, how is the dimension of the Greek mythology how does it enter the idea of politics today? And so then we started working on the goddess of snakes, and that is the goddess of chaos and rebirth of the ancient Cretan mythology. And we developed this part of the show that is less logical, like it's closer to irrational behavior and irrational to the myth. Really.
And we were keeping all the time a lot of different layers, like reality, mythology, fiction. Every rehearsal was like we're bringing so many different layers and elements into the rehearsals that it was really different idea of dramaturgy, I believe, because we couldn't concentrate in one. We had all the layers inside, and we had to choose every time what we were going to play around with. So this is how Revolt was kind of born.
Mm-hmm. And every time we tested what kind of element should go with which kind of element. So we had done this research on sounds from the city and creating, like we trapped different tables and set with microphones to get the sound of drilling, for example. And then we would think, this sound of the drill goes best with what we would test rather than think. But I think what is also important is that how these elements were structured. As I said, we tested different elements and it worked, and then we created a kind of module. So we would say this category of sound and this category of visuals and this specific text, all three elements create one module, and then we would name it, like we give it a name, like A is potatoes, A is, I don't know, 2008 in Athens. And then this module was one entity for itself, and then we created different modules, and then at the end there was a kind of collage, like a kind of film technique, where you take the model A and C and B and then you play around and see what's the best structure.